This week we watched The Studio, directed by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg.
I think we've been hearing things about it. It's like took a glance at like the first few episodes. I want to say I'm enjoying it so far. Seth Rogen is one of the probably better comedic writers and actors right now. And his work has is self-explanatory. I love how even within the movies or within the backdrop of this show is very much Office vibe, and very much Parks and Recs vibe, and very much Abbott Elementary vibe, where it's the inner workings of a studio and the people involved. It also still breaks down his himself as a character he's playing, his idiosyncrasies, his insecurities, stuff not, which I think is probably best exemplified in like the second episode, The Oneer, which is also a cut and cheek reference to a cinematic filming style and to showcase and witness, like, for people to understand the frenetic pace of shooting a one arm and how the timing is perfect, and contrasting that with the chaos behind the scenes of Matt's behavior, and also delving into his need to always be involved with the films too much, whether to his detriment, is perfectly illustrated in that episode particular. But yeah, I'm loving, what I'm seeing so far.
We're talking about how like we want Martin Scorsese to direct this movie, and then actual Martin Scorsese shows up. Like it's just very like it just makes this world like feel exactly like how you would imagine it to be in real life. And so I really like that, but it also makes the people like the cameos like very kind of over the top and really silly. And I just thought that was a nice twist to like not make it so heavy where it's like these are all of the issues that we are struggling with in this business, but also like the hope that, you can still like make good art even though the situation right now is pretty pretty bad. Like you can still find like joy in doing the work, and like why any of the artists kind of get involved in this stuff in the first place is to do that. So that I really like how they're able to balance the drama and the comedy of it all. And I think Seth Rogen as like the studio head is so funny because it's just like he is a hot mess, and yet he has this job. And all the people around him, it's giving very Veep, where it's like
Yeah.
this person has risen through the ranks not because they're good at their job, but just because like the sheer willpower of like wanting it,
Yeah.
like failing upwards, like that is his thing. And everyone around him also doesn't know what they're doing, but like they're in these positions of power as well.
Yeah, I love the fact that a lot of the characters outside the main core five or four, the studio people, everybody, whether you're an actor or director, you're playing a turned up version of yourself as a character in a way. Of
Mhm.
course, you got Anthony Mackie over there. Anytime he does an interview, he's always extra excited. In this movie, he plays up the Mackie character that he portrays in his appearances. Of course, you had Ron Howard, a prolific director, like one of the biggest directors in Hollywood. But remember, he was also an actor himself. So he's now paying almost a parody version of himself, complaining about receiving studio notes and saying basically F you and fighting people, which is, hilarious. The same thing with Sarah Polley. She was originally an actor, she stopped acting. She did Women Talking, which, talking to Seth about this project got her involved in this project for that episode. But once again, she's also an actor turned director who gets to play a version of herself as a director. So it's good to see these people also taking the piss out of themselves as well, which is something you don't really get to see in a lot of other fields, whatever everybody takes themselves super kind of serious in a way. So yeah, I like the success of this is amazing. Like you mentioned the episode with Martin Scorsese. Honestly, to me, that twist calling it Kool-Aid Man and making it about Jamestown Massacre, I would have probably fucked with it. I would have probably watched that shit. And it's also a Metacritic on the state of Hollywood, because you're talking about
Yeah.
making a Kool-Aid Man IP. Who the really fuck wants to watch a Kool-Aid Man movie? But like he said, oh, Barbie was successful. A plastic doll wasn't talk. Why can't we do that with Kool-Aid Man? There's a difference. There's a market for Barbie, and Barbie was kind of already there with toys, dolls, and movies, and etc. Kool-Aid Man had nothing, And yeah, I love the whole thing, and the fact that Matt's like first big bit of dialogue is talking about how this film studio office was built as a temple to Hollywood, which is, and he talks about Rosemary's Baby and all that kind of stuff. Like, and it really shows the fact that, he's stuck in a bygone era of really valuing the old Hollywood system of creating movies everybody wants to watch, whereas the powers that be, that people that even work for him that he's fighting, are still like, this is modern Hollywood. We have to change. Everybody wants the IP. You gotta chase the hot new thing. Whether it's hot director or hot category that everybody wants to watch.
And I like what you said about it, which is that it is a meta commentary on like the current studio system and this kind of devaluing of like artistic movies. Like they even talk about that. I think they talk about that in the Ron Howard episode where they're like, nobody wants to watch like a 2 hour like artsy film. And like, I mean,
I mean, that's a shot at you, low key.
yeah. Oh yes, yes. Personally, that was a shot at me. Um, but then you think about movies that like have won Best Picture at the Oscars, and that's exactly what they are.
Yeah,
So, I mean, Oppenheimer was a 2 hour plus, very artsy movie.
yeah,
It was a biopic
yeah,
about a guy who invented a bomb. Like,
yeah. It,
so,
at its core, Oppenheimer had very little, but he artsied the fuck out that thing and padded it. So
I disagree. It's so interesting because I feel like every film student, like nerdy person, is just like, yes, like if I was able, like if I was given the keys to that type of position, that's what I would want to do. And then the reality of like who actually is your boss, who's funding all of this, they're just gonna say no because they want the next Barbie without like really understanding why those type of things were successful. But also like not knowing kind of that it's not just about the movie, it's about everything else that goes around it, why these type of things are successful. You have something like that where it relied so heavily on marketing, and then you have something like Sinners where it relies heavily on word of mouth,
yeah,
both very successful. So it's like trying to find a formula like to whittle down like what makes a movie successful is like an impossible thing to do. I don't think that you can really do that.
yeah,
But yet like there's so much money being poured into teams like trying to crack a formula of like how to make $1 billion success. And I just maybe that'll be the lesson of this. Like you just can't.
yeah.
You just can't do it.
And honestly, that is honestly a thing with Apple TV. Like, as we're like in talking about, the show, the studio, we also can't mention Apple's other project as well. Apple TV, Apple Plus, they've branched out to the streaming platform.
Mm-hmm.
And comparatively to their contemporaries in starting out, Apple TV might not have the catalog, but it certainly has the quality of projects everybody wants. You have this, you have Severance, you have the morning show, you have a lot of wonderful, you had Ted Lasso. All these
Mm-hmm.
things have won awards. And Apple is like, I think right now there was reported they're just on the streaming platform alone, they're counting about almost $1 billion in losses annually, just producing these projects. And they're not getting a big financial boom from all these things, but they're getting good press and good marketing. They're saying, hey, you want to make a good project, come to Apple, you'll win an Emmy, you'll win an Oscar, we hire the best directors, best writers, best everybody. And for them, they might be on the business side, they might be reporting just $1 billion losses on funding these projects, but on the back end side, of course, Apple is still making money, whether it's their iPhone. So this is all another string of marketing for them. They're making it back in unseen ways. So it's not funny. It's funny to me that Apple TV is producing a movie on the meta critique of the film industry and how nobody wants to make artsy projects, and they're the ones along with A24 producing and creating these projects.
Yeah, I guess it's really not lost on like I guess whoever watches the show that like Apple TV was the streamer that kind of later came late in the game, and it wasn't like a huge success like automatically the way that Netflix was or the way that Hulu is. It kind of like slowly built itself up to the point where it's like you want to watch good TV, you're either watching HBO on Sunday nights or you're watching Apple. And I feel like the reputation of what you're able to provide to artists, but also to audiences, is so important, especially now where you're just kind of being like fed whatever, because people are just trying to make money, right? And I think that because Apple is such a huge thing already. It's so like ubiquitous with like most of our lives that like yes, like you can take the losses because like you're Apple, like it's fine. But what that means is that you can also just give a lot more money creatively to all these people. And it's like Killers of the Flower Moon, a Martin Scorsese film, long as hell, like, but so good. Was nominated for a bunch of stuff, did not win a single Oscar, but they were still like, you know what, we're gonna pour a whole bunch of more money into Severance, into greenlighting another season of Ted Lasso, into making the studio. Like they're fine with it. They're like, they didn't see that as like a loss. They were just like, let's just keep making stuff,
Hmm.
which is great because a lot of these other studios, they'd be like, oh, Black Adam didn't do well, so now we just have to like wipe what Batgirl off the map. We have to just cancel all of these different things because one of our projects didn't do as well as we expected. Instead of just being like, okay, well that didn't work, let's try something else. Like their mindsets are so not like they're not plugged in. I
Hmm.
feel like you need an Apple TV streamer to like give us good stuff. Like this show is so good. Like I maybe it's because we already are like invested in entertainment and like film. So like this is like our catnip.
Hmm.
But like for everyone else, I still think it's really good. Like and like you were saying earlier, like this the way that the directors and the actors who are appearing on the show are kind of playing heightened versions of themselves does really bring home the point of like what this industry is kind of built around, where like you'll have a whole setting where people are just having conversations about like what is the best deal that I can get out of this project. Like I'm only talking to you because I need $100,000 Rolling Stone song. Like I it's very transactional. It's very cutthroat in a way that
Hmm.
like maybe people who aren't privy to this world might not understand, but like that is legitimately how it works. Like you're only doing what you need to do to get what you want out of anybody. Um, but I also like I love that like even the actors, one, I love that the directors who they have on the show are also actors. So it's not like they're like out of their element. Um, I don't think you're up to episode 4 yet, but Olivia
No,
Wilde is in that one,
yeah,
and she's also an actor and director. Martin Scorsese also acts in a lot of his movies, so like that's why he was able to do the stuff. But like having someone like Greta Lee on there talking about how like she wants a private jet because she's been doing like these A24 movies and she's broke, like that's funny. Like that is hilarious to me because it's like well, you're not broke, but like I can see how you were like, no, I don't want to travel
hmm.
commercial. Like, please give me the private jet. Like, it's just very,
Like I'm
it's
Greta Lee.
very
Can you
funny.
imagine me on
Yeah,
a plane with everybody else? Like no.
it's very, yeah, it's so funny. It's just like really good commentary on the business without it being like completely depressing. And I
Yeah.
just really appreciate that, especially now where it's just like we go through the news every single week, and every week it's just like, oh, okay. And then another studio did a really awful thing, and like we'll get into it later. Like it's just more stuff.
Yeah.
So like I think this show is good and like keeping you optimistic about like what can be accomplished in this industry, but also not like shying away from like the reality of what it is. And like if you want to be a part of this, like just understand what you're coming in for, but also know that you can make really cool things and like that's why you do the job. So it's complex and it's
Yeah.
layered and I really like it. I like the whole 70s vibe to it too. So like it's cool.
Yeah. A project like this is where you get when you have multi hyphenates who who
Mm-hmm.
fill every single role you could think of also involved in it. Of course, Seth, actor, comedian, oh, not filmmaker. You know, so he understands the actor side of this world. He also understands what it takes to be a filmmaker. He understands that word. So because he has a natural understanding of this world, you know, he's able to highlight the comedic stupidity of it and ratchet up it to 100, and also is able to communicate the issues and somewhat nonsensical moments that we are not aware of or fans are not aware of. You know, you even got Catherine Hahn, who plays in Marvel movies, taking a shot at Marvel as well in this, which is hilarious
Hilarious.
because she's talking about nobody wants to see a 3 hour movie, and someone's like, the last Marvel movie wants it was 3 hours movies, and she was like, some, and everybody hated it, you know, and she just did, you know, WandaVision, that kind of thing, you know, so yeah, it's like this is satirical, you know, comedy that's drama at its finest. Did you like that clip? Well, you can listen to the entire podcast because the 16mm Film Crew podcast is available on all major podcast platforms.